I've always been interested in playing Space Station 13, though never getting around to it due in large part to the intense complexity and very archaic presentation at this point, so a modern, more streamlined experience would be highly welcomed. The early access release of Barotrauma finally offers this in some of the most entertaining and horrifying gameplay possible. Imagine mashing together Das Boat, Space Station and Lovecraft and you've got the game's core idea. After about 5 years of development, Barotrauma shows off a massive amount of potential as a multiplayer classic. However, in its current early access state, and certain practices by the developer has me somewhat concerned they'll be unable to fulfill their vision. Set on Jupiter's moon, Europa, below the icy surface are the endless tunnelways and catacombs that connect various outposts and stations filled with innumerable horror terrors. Submariners like yourself venture through these tunnels transporting supplies, researching artifacts, mining rare elements, and fighting off the native fauna. The single-player campaign is incomplete, but its setup is similar to FTL or Endless Sea. You start in a randomly generated map with the goal of trekking deeper into Europa's depths, encountering more dangerous missions and exotic critters. You can buy supplies and crew members with the money earned in missions, however the economy system is fairly unwieldy as crew members are far too expensive and you start with too few, making larger ships practically impossible to maintain. You also can't sell materials and the paltry rewards for quests barely break even on the repair and rearm costs. I gave up around the time the game kept crashing midway through a stage. Allowing some mid-level saves or increasing the game speed would greatly remedy these current technical shortcomings. This is something the devs have stated they're going to fix, along with adding additional NPCs, more interactions, and diversity of the settlements and stations, as well as a fleshed out plot. This all remains to be seen, as it's annoying how broken it currently is. At least make it possible for me to see more than a few areas before getting totally fucked. But single player is not the focus of the game, it's the chaotic, frustrating, and amazing multiplayer where players take on different roles to complete missions and try to survive, or instead betray everyone on board, sabotage, and flood the ship. There are 5 main roles in Barotrauma, which specialize in different tasks and command hierarchy. The captain steers the sub to whatever destination while making orders, trying to avoid rocks that smash and flood the ship. The security officer is the de facto tard wrangler, usually subduing misbehaving seamen and stopping people from flooding the ship. The mechanic and engineer class both focus on maintaining and repairing the ship's systems so they don't explode and flood the ship. Medics patch the crew members up, craft items, usually explosives and drugs, so people don't notice the ship is flooding for the 12th fucking time in an hour. Assistants also available for those who get short-strawed and play the role of cannon fodder. Those artifacts aren't going to collect themselves. You gotta keep to your role, as an engineer is no pilot and self-medication doesn't end well, although you can always disguise yourself for some hijinks. You probably already figured out how flooding is a common and problematic nuisance with the submarine so prone to breaches and attacks. The water effects are pretty impressive as it seeps in before eventually smothering the decks, as well as the physics that drags you down. Contrary to reality, repairing a sub is a simple process of using a wrench and a screwdriver on broken machinery and a welding tool that patches holes, and works pretty well as a self-defense weapon. As long as there's a constant supply of fuel, you can overcome most hurdles before the air filters give out and you suffocate. Controlling a character is easy if primitive. Barotrauma is running on the box 2D engine, so glitches and ragdolls abound, but it gives movements much greater weight and impact. I personally think some hotkeys and customization would be nice, though that's the least of the game's issues at the moment. Having everyone working together is the only way to survive, linked to a lot of cooperation and intricate communication as you time your descent, attack and defend against vicious monsters, manage the power supply, the maintenance of systems, and respond to emergencies. A good way of learning is by spectating on failing matches where self-serving tactics rarely end well. There are options that allow respawning in a mini-sub, but the delicacy makes immediately dying a bit too common. Even though Europa's monsters will often eat you, much like in real life, the true danger comes from within. Similar to, actually no, just like in Space Station 13, there can be a traitor on board who seeks to fuck your shit up. It's a pretty great game of cat and mouse, as crew members are framed, weapons start disappearing, and bioweapons begin running loose. Players knocked out can't communicate with the rest of the crew, only able to watch in horror before getting dumped into an airlock. Unfortunately, while you can turn off the traitor mode, there's no disabling of friendly fire, so griefing is quite rampant and pretty fucking retarded. Sure, most players can gang up and take them down, but that doesn't fix exploded reactors. For me, griefing is part of the fun in measured amounts, but it's always been about the quality, like building some C4 or rewiring the ship's doors to all open at once. Yet the community still desperately needs fixes and tweaks to better balance it out. Having a simple friendly fire option, or tracking player history so as to flag them for constant griefing, or even just some temporary count at suspensions would improve the multiplayer immensely over what it currently is. For me and a few others, creating a server was really difficult, requiring an IP address alongside the server port number, along with launching the game as an administrator. Definitely not a good use of a couple of hours. But when the pieces fall in place, Barotrauma can be a highly immersive, scary yet comfy game where hours can flash by where you play music, help teammates, search for treasure, or honk your friends as you burn to death. Did I mention Space Station 13? The mechanics in place allow some very dynamic adventures, like getting imprisoned by Russians, having your teeth kicked in by a giant jelly monster, or not understanding what thermal means in Thermal Artifact.
What am I meant to do with it?
Unfortunately, I'm slightly worried that the directions taken by the devs will hamper Barotrauma's success. Considering the lack of complete content and paltry options, the current price of $25 is a steep entrance fee in my opinion. This is a pretty heated issue as the developer can do whatever they feel like, but it'd be much easier getting friends into the game if it was $20 or $15, or maybe giving a gift copy along with your purchase considering it's pretty much dead without multiplayer. I'm really hoping they can tackle these problems soon and incentivize more people to play the game, as I've really enjoyed my time with it and I hope to return once it's been polished up for a complete release. Until then, I can easily recommend Barotrauma for those willing to drop the cash for an incredible multiplayer experience, but not for those looking for a rich, fulfilling, single-player journey.